hello, and welcome. I'm the Restless Kaiser,
I'm Jamie.
but together we are Modeling for Advantage. Well done. Well done. You've been here so many times, Jamie, you see.
No,
Looking
nobody wants to hear me talk.
Yeah. We have a few comments, mostly from people before the show saying they couldn't come. So there's Rich John, Bad Internet Friends, Josh Wood. Good evening, my friend. Duncan FX. Yeah, mate, I've got a bit slack. I've got a bit slack in the last 18 months. The channel has not had the output that you guys deserve. We'll maybe have a show about that in a couple of weeks. Talk about it, but you should be seeing a weekly video now. Andy Stocker and my dear friend Allard. Good to see you, my friend. So, Jamie, for the slim chance that somebody who watches our live show doesn't know who you are, just briefly tell them who you are, mate.
So you probably know by now, I'm Jamie. I built the Warlord Games official app along with my wife, Stacey. I've been working on that since about 2021 when we first started working on it. It was in beta for quite a while under second edition, and we launched it just under a year ago today to coincide with Bolt Action third edition releasing. I also build apps for other war games, including Beyond the Gates of Antares, which obviously is Warlord Games as well, and the Fallout Wasteland Warfare app, which I've been working on for about 7 years now. So that's me.
That's Jamie. So I thought we'd do tonight. Wooly Mike and I, in the background, have been working on a Desert War campaign for quite a while.
Okay.
So 1942-43 North Africa.
Nice.
And then Bolt Action 3 was announced a year ago, and we kind of put things on hold until the British book came out.
Right. Which has
literally just happened a couple of weeks ago.
As an annual subscriber, you've had access to that for quite a while.
Yes, indeed. So list building and Bolt Action very much back on my mind. I was like, I should give Jamie a nudge, see how things are getting on with the app, because I did notice that obviously. So if we start, you launched you were running a beta with Bolt Action 3, Bolt Action 2.
Yes.
You got a Black Seas module and you've got a Blood Red Skies module.
Correct.
Bolt Action had about 30 supplements by that point.
Yes, it did, and
they were still producing new ones.
They were, and we were like, by the time we'd started building the app, they were. I think it was just before they released the first Italian one. It wasn't Case Blues. It might have been Case Blue just for Tough Gut, and so we were already 28 books behind, and Stacey did an amazing job, catching up with those books, and then of course, right at the point where we caught up with all of these supplements, they announced Bolt Action 3rd edition. And so part of us, we were kind of kicking ourselves because all of that work felt
died a little bit there.
Yeah, but actually it was really refreshing because it meant that we kind of wiped the slate clean. Because although we'd gotten all the data in, there was so much of a legacy of edge cases and stuff that when we started building it, we didn't understand the game as well as we did by the time we got to the end. So we kept having to pivot a lot as we discovered new things that the app couldn't do. And that hasn't been the case with 3rd edition because we've been ahead of the curve instead of behind it. And so
in 2nd edition, there's something like 4 different versions of Fieldcraft, right?
Right, yeah, exactly. And depending on which book you look at. And so every time we encountered a slightly different wording, we had to go and check it with Warlord, which one should we be using? And add in the fact that we were also doing the 1st edition books that sometimes they were partly superseded by things in 2nd edition. Yeah. Well, so we actually toyed with the idea for a while of supporting both in the app, but the idea of having to not only build all the new functionality for version 3, but finish the functionality for version 2 when really the priority for Warlord is promoting version 3, that made that decision very easy. We just said, look, as sad as it is that some people want to keep playing 2nd edition, we're not going to support it as a list builder. We're going 3rd edition all the way. And I'm really happy we did do that because it made things so easier.
And as a result of that, as you hinted on a moment ago, it meant when the British Army book came out, Warlord actually announced a couple of weeks before when it went up for pre-order. It's like you can get it on the app now.
Yes, yeah. So that was a big part of, obviously, when we've been working on it, and we knew it was a commercial venture, right? As much as we are hobbyists, it was always going to have a subscription associated with it. And one of the things that the subscription gives you is, if you're paying for the annual subscription, you get early access, and tons of people go for that. Like we always see, whenever there's a new Army book comes out, Armies of Germany especially, because that's the most popular faction.
Yeah. It's half the players.
Yeah, and so like 2 weeks before it comes out physically, we do an early access for annual subscribers, and we see a spike of people converting from monthly to annual because they want to get hands on those rules, on that list builder. Unfortunately, It does mean that for 2 weeks we have people emailing us saying this is wrong, but they don't have their physical book to check it against. So we get a lot of that.
Of course. So the thing is wrong, but in fact, it's just changed.
Yes, exactly. And it was no different with Armies of Great Britain, but I'm happy to say that we've gotten a lot better at getting everything right first time, and part of that is just the process that we go through with Warlord around getting early drafts and making sure that those are checked against the later drafts when we get them. But yeah, the process is a bit more streamlined now. So Armies of Soviet Union next. We're looking forward to getting that one into the app, and of course, our next big thing is Conflict 47, which comes out at the end of September. So we're in the weeds with that now.
Yes, it's interesting. I'm a little bit surprised with Conflict 47, if I'm going to be honest. As in, obviously, as a channel, we've been following Warlord. We like a lot of their games. We play a lot of their games, mostly bolt action, of course. But so the company in the past 5 years, because it also owns a number of subsidiaries like Skytrex, and John seems to inherit or buy up like dying miniatures companies, and adds figure ranges here and there, which have been around since the 70s, but he particularly likes. So they pushed Cruel Seas and Antares over to Skytrex, and in a kind of, when these are no longer core Warlord games, we're not going to try and continue to support these. The miniatures are available. There's been like a final, I think they got Rick Priestley to have a final stab at the rule book and leave it definitive edition.
Tim Bancroft did a second edition of Beyond the Gates of Antares, which I've got a physical copy on my shelf. It's free to download, and it was like a last sort of farewell, for the community. And actually, it if anything, it reinvigorated the community. And I think although the game isn't being actively developed, it's still there, right? It's still available for everyone to play. They even released a whole new faction for free that you can 3D print at home, and so it's active, but in pockets. But you're right. Like, it's no longer a priority for Warlord because it takes a lot to make a successful sci-fi war game unless you're Games Workshop, because they've
and I think that they've got SKU blow. Right? If you're a hobby shop, you struggle to provide a shelf space for all the bolt action you would want, let alone the other stuff.
Yeah,
and and its market is so marginal. So I was quite surprised.
I don't know if you're familiar with Entoyment. That's my local wargaming shop, and
it's on my list of places to go and do a store visit. We've made video.
They just so actually Josh Woods, who's on this stream, he's a local. He works there as well, and they just moved to new premises, and it's absolutely cavernous. It's huge.
Looks like a aircraft warehouse.
Yes, it does. Yeah. So, and if you look carefully, you'll find that one of the gaming tables is sponsored by Malaric Digital. So.
Oh, really?
So now I'm a permanent fixture at Entoyment, which is great because I don't get enough time to get down there and actually play. So,
Josh, if you're listening and you are here, I'm interested in coming down to Entoyment and doing an interview and doing it like we did with Musket Balls in Southampton. There's a few places I want to go and do, and just talk to the owners, like what's the history.
We should talk more about that because I live just 5 minutes down the road, so we could get a game of bolt action in as well while we're at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's one for a future episode.
So I was surprised with Conflict 47 that they didn't do the same thing. Basically,
Right.
That it's a more of a niche game. They've got a lot of SKU bloat, as in they've got too much product.
Yeah.
But they've decided with Conflict 47 they're going to double down. That they're releasing. I saw them at UK Games Expo. Big new launch, lots of new plastic. That it's got bolt action as its bedrock is good.
Yeah.
Because
I don't think
I
actually wasn't that surprised, to be honest. Obviously, I know, like, with me building the app, you'd think I'd have the inside scoop, but I don't get that much advanced warning on that kind of thing. And
I've never met anyone that played it, mate.
Well, I always
never met anyone that played it.
And that I get it, but I think if you think about World War II wargaming, it's not something that you can trademark, right? You can't protect your intellectual property. People can bring in miniatures from any range. They can, and not that I think that they're necessarily going to stop that, but they can design their own units without having to worry about, does somebody else produce a competitor? And I think it gives them more creative control and creative freedom. Whether or not that pays off remains to be seen. But I'm really glad that they are, really investing and doubling down on it. And I'm confident that it'll be a lot more successful than Conflict 47's ever been because of the advent of 3rd edition bolt action, which I think has been a resounding success.
Well, I mean, for me, a big part of it is the more of the range that's in plastic, and I know a lot of this new launch is in plastic.
Yeah,
I know the whole kind of World War weird stuff is much bigger in America than it is over here as a genre, anyway. Yeah. So, and that market is big and growing for them. I know.
Yeah,
but yeah, like a lot of games, I've never met anyone that plays it.
Yeah.
So,
it's tough, isn't it? Though I've always been more of a like fantasy and sci-fi wargamer than a historical wargamer. So although I like bolt action, I gravitated towards Beyond the Gates of Antares, and I always hoped that they'd do more for Conflict 47, because who doesn't want big, like, steampunk type mechs wandering around World War II?
And Nazi werewolves and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah. So the Soviet ones, the werebears, the Ursus, those are, I've got some of those, and the models look even better in person than they do in the pictures. They're really nice models.
Yeah. So, yeah. I saw a good chunk of it. So for people that are going to be jumping on the Antares bandwagon, it will be available on your app, will it? At launch?
It will, yes. It will be available at launch. We're working real hard to get it all available, because our deadline, so obviously they've announced it comes out at the end of September. Our deadline to get it done is sort of beginning of September, because I have a day job and I'm traveling for work through all of September. So we really need to make sure that we're not relying on me to get stuff finished during September. So we've got, like, another 3 weeks really to get it all done, but it is going well. I'm confident it will be ready on day of launch.
Right. Okay.
I hate saying absolutes, but we've committed to it being ready on day of launch. So, Warlord are working really hard on it as well. That because of the nature of the way that they're publishing it, they can kind of go closer to the wire than they did before with, like, the army lists and that kind of thing.
Is that because they're not publishing it through Osprey?
They're doing, I think they'd already said, I hope they've already said that they're doing digital army lists, so that'll be like a living document. And the idea is that it means that it will be constantly evolving. But the great thing for us is that then we'll be adding new content to the app as often as they add it to the army lists. So yeah, there's still a lot to do, but we're pretty confident, because it's because they're basing it off of the bolt action rule system. We get to reuse a lot of the stuff that we've already built for bolt action, but it's the extra bits that we have to make sure that we get it right, that we don't, because we had problems at launch with bolt action 3rd edition. We we fixed them quickly, but we had a lot of teething issues, and that thankfully has kind of gone away with each new army book. But that's because now Bold Action as a product is more mature than it was in September. We want Conflict 47 to be that mature on day one. And thankfully, I think it's already kind of ahead of where we were with Bold Action at this time last year. So, yeah.
Right. Well, why don't we have a little bit of a look then?
Sure.
And, so I'll try and maybe we'll build an army list from the stream. So if you've not used it before, lads, and maybe some ladies are watching tonight, app.warlordgames.com/home. This is what you're presented with when you log in. And the first point there is I'm not paying separately for these different applications, right?
No, sir.
Pay a subscription to the Warlord app. I will get Conflict 47 with that, even if I never use it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And part of that is because let's face it, most people are using the app for Bolt Action. They're not going to pay a separate subscription for Black Seas or Blood Red Skies, most people, but this presents the opportunity to kind of cross-sell into those games, and it just makes it simpler and easier. We're not doing this to make a ton of money. We're doing it to provide a really good tool to the community. So
okay. And so my first question in relation to Antares app, so we'll look at the Bolt Action list builder in a second, but if you go into, for example, the squadron builder, it does look different.
To the Bolt Action.
Oh, so in here, there's a style which this stuff looks like the cards from the game. It's got the same kind of font, same kind of colors, same kind of style. For example. So I just wanted to show people that. So the Conflict 47 is going to have a distinct look as well, presumably.
Yes, it is. We're toying with the idea of even having like a different look depending on which faction you're building for. So, if you're building for the Axis, that you might have one theme and a different theme for the USA. We haven't implemented that yet. It might be something that we allow people to kind of pick a theme, but I'd like to. It's a visually beautiful game, and I really want to make use of that.
Yeah. Okay. I can't follow the chat when I'm in here, by the way, guys. So
I'll keep an eye out.
I will flip back from time to time and just try and catch up. So you're going to Bolt Action, click in the list. Oh, just before I do that, what's this library then? What's this?
Oh, right. So that's like all your reference for Bolt Action. It's only really 3 areas at the moment. It allows you to look up special rules without having to go and find a unit that has that special rule. Search for specific units without having to find a platoon selector that allows that unit, and then to actually see all the platoon selectors themselves. It's the special rules lookup is the main.
Right. So I can find them from here. And at the moment, we've only got a couple of base books, so they're very simple.
Yeah. But the idea is, we could add other things to there in future. So, we're not against adding things like scenarios there if you wanted your scenario descriptions, or adding in like army lists, like pre-built army lists, that kind of thing.
Yes, I mean, for beginners, one of the things I would say would be good to see in there would be if you buy an army box.
Oh right, yeah. So we have actually talked about doing that with Warlord. The idea that you could have in an army box like a QR code that says go to the app to find like pre-built lists for this. We've with all the other stuff that we've been doing, we haven't ever gotten around to implementing that, but it's something that is definitely on our roadmap for the future. Andy Stocker is saying the library is really useful, saves trying to find them in the rulebook. That's exactly why we did it. I used to say, Stacey doesn't like me saying this, but I used to say that if you have to open the rulebook during a game, then we failed. But as I've found myself, like I still have to open the rulebook occasionally, probably because I don't play enough Bolt Action. But the idea is that we're trying to reduce the amount of time you spend flipping through the rulebook.
So once you click, sorry, just to follow that through. So once you click on that list builder there, it brings up this page you've got here, which these are the lists that I have previously built. These are the ones that I've looked at.
Yeah,
and you can see the 3 British ones here using the Armies of Great Britain book, Armies of Germany book. the Get You By lists, they're the lists that Warlord gave out for free, I think, at the beginning of the edition. Is that right?
Right. They were essentially the Minor Nations PDFs. So anything that doesn't have a book yet and wasn't in the core rule book ended up as a Get You By list.
Right.
And those will all eventually. I think they've got they did the dates out to the end of 2026, and I think Italy is sort of middle of 2026. So it'll again be in the app on day one, day -14. It'll be in the app.
Right. So on here, create new company, and then this button here, we can import other people's lists, right?
Correct. Yeah. So the idea there being, aside from we see a lot of people sharing lists on social media. People still prefer to share them obviously as screenshots or as PDFs, which is fine because obviously if you're not an app user, it allows you to see it. But if you then want to tell someone, if you want, import it into your app, just give them like a code and it's like 6 digits long. The other way you can use that is for tournaments. If you're a TO, then you can tell people, here's my email address, share it with me, or email me the force code and you can import it that way. We are going to do more kind of bespoke tournament support in the future, but obviously we'll probably do that after we've gotten through all the armies of books.
Right. When everybody's on the same page. So if we've got to create a new company, then it is as you'd expect. So let's create a German list.
Okay.
We'll call it stream. So I know that I don't need it later. I have to wonder what it is. So it then just creates an entry down here for me.
Yeah.
Which I can go in. It tells me 0 points. It's warning me that my platoon does not meet the requirements. It's not telling me why though.
So it will when you go into that platoon. So it'll highlight the platoons that are at fault, and if you now click into platoon 1, it should tell you what's required. I hope.
Right. I don't have a platoon commander.
Right. So
okay.
it's highlighting. Those are the required units. It should be highlighting.
Select the platoon commander. Gives me an officer. Tells me is a lieutenant or an oberleutnant. And that's actually been added to the list, right?
Correct. Yeah.
As it is.
Yeah, and you can either edit it here or you can go back and then edit it. But we were discussing just before the stream, my preferred way to build a list, and I realize this varies. Some people don't do it this way. Is if I know I'm building for like a 1250 point list, I'll have in mind which units I want to take anyway, because I'm usually not building to min max. I'm building based on I want these units on the table. So I'll add all those units and then I'll see how many points I've got left that I can play with, and then go start upgrading my units. So the idea here is that you can quickly go, right, 1 officer, 2 infantry, and then go back and then edit them rather than going in as you add each one.
So, which is the standard squad? This is the problem with the Germans. Is it just going to be the Grenadier squad? Here, Grenadier squad.
There you go.
An alphabetical. Or
it is
infantry squad. Yeah.
I'd say your Grenadiers are probably the ones you see on the table more, at least in my experience.
Yeah. Okay. So we've added those, and it's showing us the squads here. We can then go in and edit them.
One thing worth pointing out as well. So one thing worth pointing out here is that it just as of today, as of about 2 hours ago, it now defaults to regular instead of inexperienced. It was a stupid thing where back when I first built the list builder, I said, right, pick the cheapest one, and then I knew that was a bad idea because most people end up wanting them regular rather than inexperienced. And you have to go in and then change it for everyone. Now you can it'll default to regular. If you prefer to have veteran or you prefer to have an experienced, you can change that in the bolt action settings, and it'll just pick either the one that you chose or the nearest one. So if you pick veteran and there isn't a veteran option, it'll pick regular. and if there's not a regular, it'll pick an experienced. And I think that's going to make list building a lot faster. I should have fixed that ages ago. It took about 20 minutes to do, and I just never got around to doing it until about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So these already, you can see how it's different from bolt action 2. For example, some machine guns costing 4 points, not 3. I wasn't happy about that. You can choose to have a pistol to get a point back, but the fact that I have to pay for my guys at all, to be honest. So I can add my 2 extra guys. What happens if I try to add 3? Oh, it doesn't stop me.
Oh, it's not stopping you. Why is it not stopping? Is it allowed? Is it allowed? Which one are we on here? Is that correct? I can't see. I'm looking at the screen, but I can't see.
Armies of Germany.
Yeah, that shouldn't be allowing you that. This is obviously a very recent change, unless it's because. No, I'm not sure why that is.
There may be one or 2 niche cases. I mean, it says
no,
in the text.
I'm gonna stop coming on this stream because every time I come on the stream, you discover new interesting with the app.
Yeah. Mutable action 3, intelligence training. So if I'm new at this, where would I find out what intelligence training does?
So if you actually add it to the unit, it'll add a special rule. So you have to add it to be able to see what that special rule does. But if you click on it and then scroll up, you'll see there's special rules intelligence training. Click on that, and it'll give you a description of what it does. And you're only allowed 1 per force, so you won't be able to add it on another officer now. I think it's 1 per force.
Yeah.
So I'm having a look at the app on my phone to see if this is a bug that was introduced with the update from this afternoon, or whether it's something else.
Right, ongoing. So I do like the fact that you can skimp out though. If you're like 3 points over, you say, well, take the rifles off your officers then.
Yeah, give them all pistols. Yeah.
Give them pistols. That would never be a good idea. But for the fact
you are allowed up to 4 men. So yeah, but that's, in fact, it says it in the description. I couldn't see it on your screen, but I've got my Armies of Germany book here as well. Obviously, assuming that wasn't a change to the errata, then that is correct. Let's take a look. Yeah, the officer may be accompanied by up to 4 men with rifles. Thank goodness for that.
The text normally says in the app, text says up to 2 men.
Oh, so in that case, that's probably the text is out of date because, in fact, let's have a look because that would have been copied out of the rule book. When we get the rule books, we get them as a PDF and we copy paste the descriptions out of there. Let's take a look. Officers. I think what we probably have there is a slightly earlier draft of the description that never got updated. So that I will update. The description on the option is correct, but the description for the unit is wrong.
Right. Interesting though that being able to take 5-man units.
Well, it keeps the officer a little bit more robust, doesn't it? He's less likely to get.
Yes, absolutely.
He'll still get sniped, but he won't get mowed down by regular guys.
Absolutely. So if we go into the Grenadier squad, which will just let me show another thing. So what I tend to do, which is different from how you do it, I do it the other way around, is I start by maxing out the unit, adding the equipment that I want. Where's the LMG? There you go. I tend to make a basic squad, which is all the guys and the LMG. And look at how much that's going to cost. Let me just get rid of that second one.
And then duplicate that one. And
then, So this is one of the things that I said is sometimes a little bit confusing, though. This is the squad that I've made, and this is the entry, which has got a points cost.
Correct.
This is what I'm actually paying.
Yeah. So the idea there is that's the points cost if you add another one. That's why it's next to the plus minus button. But the points cost for the one that you've actually added is the one just below.
But I wonder if this had a different color background or something that made the bit. This is the active squad.
Clear that it's There's definitely
that's the list, isn't it?
Make that a little clearer.
Yeah. But what I tend to do anyway is say this is I'll do that and then I'll just click the duplicate button here, so I don't have to configure it again. And that's for me, that's kind of my starting point.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I love the fact that it keeps my points total up there, number of ordered dice, really useful. Adding another platoon, then, is that this button? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways you can do it. That's one is you can add, because that's either a next button if you have multiple platoons already, or it's a plus button if you're on the last platoon. You can also go back to the previous page where it's got like an overview of the force.
This one, and I can add.
And then you can, so that's, yes, that's where you've got platoon 1, and you can add additional HQ units is like effectively a platoon, but not a platoon. That's for your company commander who's not part of any platoon. If that makes sense.
Right. You can just, if you just have an extra commander.
Yes, yeah, company commander or like chaplain and that kind of thing. As a little aside, I've just assembled my Sergeant Sawyer, rest in peace. He's going to go in my my British list. I've been putting together a lot of Brits recently, so. And I did it without gluing my fingers together. Amazing.
Did it without gluing your fingers together. Right. So the big change, get rid of that HQ one, is how we do. We no longer have that kind of one of each. I forget what it was called. The kind of platoon out of the core rulebook from.
Yeah, the reinforced platoon, wasn't it? And I noticed this recently. I still think of the rifle platoon as being similar to that default platoon from 2nd edition. And then I was building a list the other day and I was like, where's my MMG slot? And it's not in there. You've got to get a heavy weapons platoon to get your MMG team. So that's why I'm putting together Sergeant Sawyer. I'm going to make him a platoon commander so that I can now take a 2nd platoon in my British list.
Right. Well, one of the things I love about it, to just go back to that, is the light mortar. Because the light mortar is a platoon level weapon. It is all over the place in World War II.
Yeah.
And you never see it in a game. It's like, this is the one piece of artillery or heavy weapons that you would see in a platoon level weapon. You know, it's like mortars.
Yeah, it makes them much more common in Bolt Action version 3 for sure. I was using one today, although it failed miserably to score any casualties. So.
But it costs hardly any points. But it's such a prolific weapon. And the thing that always bothered me, so I'm glad that they put weapons into platoons. And you don't get one mortar.
No.
Wherever there's one mortar, there's 4 or 8 or 12 because they're fired in batteries.
Yeah. And you've got units that come with them, with light mortars embedded in the platoon as well. But yeah, you at least want to have access to them as a team weapon for sure.
Yeah. All right. So I mean, that's where it's at. I'm not gonna keep fiddling with it and finding faults.
It turned out you didn't actually find any bugs. It was a wording problem. That was it.
It was a wording issue.
I forgive you.
Yeah. So with Antares, you're not in a position to say much about that.
You mean Conflict 47? I can tell you anything you like about Antares.
Well, you haven't got an app for it.
Say again?
You haven't got an app for Antares.
I do. So I've got a web app for Antares.
Have you?
Yeah. It's antares.malaric.com, and it's the same sort of thing. But it did have a mobile app, but I believe that's now gone. And the reason for that is because I'd published it under my own personal account as opposed to the Warlord account. And they changed the rules last year sometime where you had to provide contact information on your profile, on your developer profile. And I didn't want my phone number being on there for an app that is free. And it was the only app I was publishing under that account. So the plan eventually is to actually incorporate the Antares app into the Warlord app. It wouldn't actually take a lot of work to do, but because it's already a free app, right? It was something that I built as a passion project because I played a lot of Antares. We're going to keep the free web app, but we'll include anyone who wants to is already a subscriber to the Warlord app and wants to use it on their phone, will be able to use it in there as part of that subscription. So it's kind of a no-brainer. It's just when we get the time to do it, it's going to get added into there.
Yeah. Okay.
And what about 47? All I can really tell you about that is, so I've obviously got the rule book. We get a digital copy so we can start inputting any changes to the rules. We've seen the early drafts of the army lists as well, and we've been inputting the sort of more finished data in there. And I'm excited about it. So I can't really tell you anything about how it works, but I can tell you that they've already said it's based on Bolt Action version 3, right? But it's not a reskin of 3rd edition by any stretch. Like the differences to the mechanics of the game make it feel distinct, and they really tie in with the theme, and that's what I'm excited about, because I love like mechs and monsters and all that, and I've pre-ordered my Axis and my US. Really looking forward to getting those on the table.
Is he doing anything outrageous like Antares did, moving to D10s?
No, it's based off of it's not. I don't think it's doing anything outrageous. Obviously, your definition of outrageous will vary, but they got to
the D6 is God's chosen dice.
It is, yeah, apparently so. I've got to say, I love Antares and the D10 system, but
different colored D10.
Yeah, different colored D10s. But the thing, so I was playing Bolt Action this afternoon, and because I mostly play Antares, I usually think of them as being very similar games, but the things, especially in 3rd edition, that are different to Antares, I think are all good changes, like in terms of simplifying the game, where Antares sometimes goes the other way. It's slightly more intricate, like the rules. And I think that's still a good thing, but I found that the game that I played today went faster than the equivalent game in Antares. Because with Antares, you're worrying about things like, the same unit will have mixed stat lines, where some people have got like a different shooting skill than others, that kind of thing. So you end up doing a little bit more cross-referencing, and if you're playing it often, it's not a problem. But if you're a bit out of practice, you end up spending a lot of time flicking backwards and forwards.
And you have a stat profile. In Bolt Action, you don't have a stat profile because everyone's a man.
Yeah, exactly. So
everyone's a dude.
Yeah, everyone's just a dude. They don't have to worry about armor and stuff unless they're in cover. So there's less like modifiers and stuff. So obviously they're different games for different audiences, but yeah, I'm going back towards D6s now, not necessarily because the D6 is better, but just because the game it's associated with is just a bit more streamlined.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
D6
but K47 though, like I'm so excited about that I've just finished spraying all of my Soviets. I had a Soviet starter army plus extras that's been sat in a box for like over a year. Got all that assembled and sprayed it red, obviously. And then I needed another faction because I'm going to visit a friend when I'm over in the States, and I said I'd bring some Conflict 47 over.
Yeah,
I'm leaving before Conflict 47 launches, so I'm not going to have my new Axis or US deck.
They don't have the shiny new plastics that we saw.
So I didn't want to go and order any of those. So I ordered a bunch of British models, and I've just been furiously building them over the last week. And this is like my
pretty big.
Yeah, and they're all like there's mostly metal models. And I'll tell you what, for anyone who's thinking about going British, just mentally prepare yourself for these guys. The automated infantry, the iconic Conflict 47
with his Brody helmet.
Yeah, they're lovely models, right? And for a metal set, you get a surprising number of poses out of them because every leg is separate, every arm is separate, the gun is separate. But because it's super glue, it takes a long time to assemble them. And they fell apart a lot. I was up doing it till about 1:30 in the morning, and they fell apart more than they stuck together. They're together now, but man, it took a long time.
So it's an advanced modeling prospect.
Yeah,
they like to say for kits that are awful.
And the contact points are so tiny. I just know that even though I've got padded cases for all my models, they're going to fall apart in transit for sure, and I'm going to have to put them all back together again. So those are going to get sprayed. For all my bolt action and Conflict 47 stuff, I'm just airbrushing them all one color because I haven't got time to paint any models these days. So if I do like all my Soviets red, all my
even the guys.
Yeah, so like my infantry for my US they look like little army men. They're just like bright green, and actually looks really nice. But it just means technically they're painted. They're on the table. It's not grey plastic. So yeah, so
it's green plastic.
Hey,
it's not grey plastic. It's green plastic.
Yeah, exactly. So they blend in with the terrain as well. So. But I'm going to end up probably with them all being different shades of green. So I've got like a mid-tone green for my Brits, a dark green for my Axis, and then a light green for my US. The tan. Well, I could do, but then that'll be my Africa force. I think if I do like a
right.
I'm waiting to see what I need to have a proper read through the lore for Conflict 47 because I'm just imagining it all being every battle is at night time. There's lightning in the sky and. It's all going to be in like Normandy. That's what I've got in my head. So, but yeah, I've got a friend who's got some Japanese that he's put together, similarly unpainted. But we're planning to get a game in as soon as I get back from the States. So.
Right, and that's what Entombment is. That what you normally play?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so we try to get down. I've got lots of terrain at home, and we could play around here, but I've got 2 kids. And my wife likes to play online on a computer, which is in the next room. So rather than us being in here making loads of noise, 5 minutes down the road, get to Entombment, supporting the local business, and they've got better scenery and more space than I've got. So the only problem is our games tend to drag on and they close at 10. So we've got you get like a 4-hour slot.
Games.
Play smaller
games.
I need bigger games. What I need to do is book 2 slots. Take the afternoon off work and play an 8-hour epic.
You don't. You need to play a smaller game. You'd be a lot happier playing smaller games if you play a lot more often.
To be fair, that's one of the reasons why I enjoyed the game this afternoon because it was just I didn't have a lot of time to get a game in, and so I played like 160 points per side. It was literally like 3 order dice on one and 4 order dice on the other.
Right,
it was
right.
Just yeah, it was because I was playing on my own as well, so I had to handle both sides, and it was lots of fun. It was a punchy little game. You don't get a lot of variety in list building at that sort of points level, but it's still fun to get a good game in.
Yeah, no, I'm a huge believer in the smaller game. I really am, and I suppose because of the channel, I've played literally hundreds of games in the past few years, and I quickly realized the size at which the games are often marketed is too big. And it's one of the things that is good about bolt action, actually, is that it's at 1,000 points, it wasn't that big a game. When you compare that to 2,000 points worth of Warhammer, 2,000 points worth of Warhammer is a 3-hour game for a professional player. Yeah. And a 6 to 8 hour game for regular guys who just roll some dice at the weekend once a month.
And it only really works if your opponent have the stamina for that, right? Like I'll happily play a longer game, but if I get any sense that my opponent is not enjoying it, then I lose all interest in playing because I only want to play if my opponent's enjoying it as well. And it's ideally something you can leave set up and come back to, right? Take it like after turn 2, take a break, go and get something to eat, come back to it. But no one's got space or time for that sort of thing.
So you said about Entombment.
Yeah,
I have a gaming space up here, obviously, because we film games here all the time.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
If I'm playing a casual game, I prefer to drive to St. Albans, which is like a 25-minute drive from here, and play a game there because that's a social activity. That I'm playing a game with friends. I'll come away having spent a fortune on coffee and bagels and crap like that I didn't need. But I had an evening out.
Exactly.
So play a game here that you got the pack up and the put down time afterwards, the clean up time.
Yeah.
But there's less kind of options. halfway through round 2, let's just go outside and have a fag and see what they're doing over there. And
yeah. And you get people will come over like we always get that in Toyman. Every time we play Antares, someone comes over at the table. It's like, God, Antares, I didn't know anyone was still playing that. And you get a chat to people about it. That's how we've got so many people locally that play. But you don't get that if you play at home. You don't get to promote the game that you're playing or see what games other people are playing. So, no, I absolutely agree. Getting down to your local gaming store is much better experience.
I think so.
There's another game that's on my radar. Again, it's another one I can't talk too much about, but I can talk a little bit about it because they have announced it. Is Wasteland Warfare version 2. So I built the app for version 1, and that's very Fallout, yeah. And that's always been like a very narrative-focused game. It's not really like a tournament game or anything. And they have like a single-player mode. Effectively, they have like exploration and stuff of the wasteland, and they're really leaning into that for the second edition. And they're not releasing till sort of sometime next year. And I will be building the app for that as well. But I played, so I was in the playtest group for that, and that was smaller, punchier games where, partly because of the kind of game that it is, you're talking like 3 or 4 models per side rather than 3 or 4 squads or whatever. And I was playing sort of 2 or 3 games a night of that because it's got this campaign system in there, and I was loving it just because it meant I got more gaming in, and because it's got this single player aspect, I didn't need an opponent. I literally just sort of set it up at the table and got a bit of wargaming done. So that's the opposite of what we were just talking about. I think that's going to be a challenging game to play down at your local club because you don't need an opponent for it. But it would have been great during lockdown. So if we get another global pandemic, Wasteland Warfare 2nd Edition is going to be huge.
Let's hope there's another 100 years before the once in 100 years.
Yeah. Let's hope that Wasteland Warfare.
Good for gaming. With 150,000 dead in the UK, it's probably a bit of a heavy price to pay.
Yeah, for a good gaming experience, it's probably a little bit pricey. Josh saying he loves
playing. Josh was playing Moonstone. I don't even know what Moonstone is, Josh. I'm gonna have to Google it now.
He was playing that at Beachhead last year, I think, or this year. I still haven't got a game with him on that. He's been talking about it for a while though. I should probably be more open-minded to other games. I've just got so little time to play them these days.
And Granddaddy Kaiser's top tip for people who say nobody ever plays Gaslands, nobody ever plays this, nobody ever plays that. So when was the last time when another guy was having a similar whine? He said, "Mate, I'll give you a game of that, and when we're done, you can play this crappy game that I want to play."
Yeah, right. You've got to do what I do. Give away free models.
I think it's one of the reasons though why the kind of public gaming scene is, and clubs, and a lot of them have died out, is because people want to play the game they want to play.
Yeah.
So if you want a community to live and to grow, then you need to be willing to play the games that they want to play.
Yeah. I agree.
Is really important. It's also unfortunately why a lot of us have a side hustle in playing Warhammer, is because it's the only bloody game anyone will play.
You say that. I've got a bunch of like 40k miniatures up here, and I've still never gotten a game in with them. You
won't enjoy it, mate. Don't bother. If you don't need to, don't do it.
I got a game in on my own because I wanted to learn the rules so that I could teach my son. He was interested. What happened was I played a load of Space Marine 2 on Xbox over Christmas, and
a noble profession, sir.
Well, my kid saw it and he loved it, the look of the Tyranids, and I said, well, let's see if I can get some models and I might get him into wargaming. And no, he wasn't interested in the tabletop. He just wanted to play it on the Xbox. So I bought all those models for nothing, but I got them secondhand. So
smart kid.
Yeah, right. I'll get him into the hobby.
It's a lot of effort, and it doesn't look nearly as good as that video game there called Space Marine.
Right. He likes the models themselves. He just doesn't want to learn the rules. Mm-hmm. But I did get him to play Space Hulk, and he beat me. I wasn't even pulling any punches. He was rolling very well. He did a very good job. So he wants to play more Space Hulk.
But Space Hulk is a game, board game. Warhammer is just crazily complicated. I was at I was at a tournament for Warhammer last weekend. Actually, you guys follow the channel, about to see a whole bunch of videos. Idic Beard Necron guy on YouTube runs a tournament for YouTubers once a year, and James Workshop and I usually go down. It is usually my only game of Warhammer that year. I rock up, and there's usually the rules are completely different from last year.
Right.
So we actually had a practice game this time to get ready for it. And the tournament, I can say that I did quite well, which I think was probably a bit annoying for some of the other folks there who play it full time.
So, who are you playing then? What faction?
And I play the faction which I love to call the Derp Guard when I'm playing them.
The Derp Guard, and but obviously not when you were playing them this time because they must have done quite well.
They did very well. They did. I don't want to spoil it for people, but I was placed. And for someone who's played literally 6 games of 10th edition, I don't think that probably some of the other guys were a bit bitter about it. I don't know.
Well, the Emperor was clearly with your dice that day. I actually kind of like what I've played so far of 10th edition. I think I like some of the same things that I've heard other people complain about, like all the stratagems and that kind of thing. I like the sense of agency that I get as a player.
Too complicated.
You think?
I play a lot of games, so I just can't retain all that information.
No, I didn't retain it. I felt like I was doing a lot of reference, but that's because I'm a new player to the game. But what I liked was the breadth of options that I had. Not necessarily because I want to choose from them all, but it means that I can have 2 different games where I have totally different options available to me, and it'll play differently as a result. Plus, I did quite like the opportunities to roll like 20 or 30 dice at once, which was quite fun.
Yes, until you play somebody who's going to orcs who rolls 140 dice to score.
Yeah, well, there's that.
and that very much was happening at this event that I was at. There's people who have like a margarine tub full of dice. This is worth for my 100, and then these are the other ones on top of that. Oh, come on.
Yeah. But I need to play a little bit more of it, but I just probably haven't played enough yet to be jaded with it. So
yeah.
But yeah. Well, so I mean, Bolt Action's definitely like my next game that I'm going to play more of because I don't. It's criminal that building the app that I don't play much.
And they did a good job with it. They've done a good job with it. They didn't change much because the game wasn't broken.
Right.
And the things that they've changed addressed some issues with the game.
I love cover saves. The addition of cover saves.
I don't love them, but I hate rolling to hit on 7s for half the game.
Yeah.
And if that's the trade-off, then I'll take it.
Yeah, fair enough. I think just narratively, I think the fact that it's a no-brainer now to get into cover. If there's a building there, get in it.
Even it was already.
Yeah, but you're probably right. But like you say, I think it's more frustrating if it's a modifier. I like the idea that I've hit something, and they get a pin, right, and that they save because they got behind cover. I don't know. Like narratively, I prefer that.
Right.
But I know obviously not everybody's into it, but then I think that's the thing is that everyone wants their own version of the game, right? And you can't please everyone.
So you've opened up a little window into like a core issue with war games that I have, which is that we use the term cover to describe anything between you and the shooter.
Yeah,
I actually think that they're 2 very different things. There's
one's
cover,
right? One's cover,
and there's concealment.
Right. Yeah.
They're not the same thing.
No.
I promise you, if you hide behind a privet hedge and I fire an SMG at you, you will die.
Yeah, but then I wouldn't class that. Yeah, okay, sure. So in that case, you would probably want it to be a modifier to hit. But the problem with modifier to hit is that it slows. It's all an abstraction, right? So you don't use it as cover. You use it as it's making it harder to hit the opponent, but then
but then you've just broken everything you just said about it being narrative. Like they got it to cover.
Yeah,
I think cover and concealment are different things.
Yeah, no, you're right, and they're treated that way in Antares as well, right? And I think in a lot of war games. But the thing I dislike is when I've picked up all my dice that I need to roll, and then I'm trying to work out what I need to roll to hit, and I just want to roll them and know that I need to hit on a 4+ or whatever. It's like with range penalties. Initially, I thought with bolt action, well, why have I not got like a penalty for hitting further away versus up close? And obviously, you got point blank shooting, you hit easier, but the fact that there weren't range bands that I was used to, the fact that you didn't have -1 to hit when you've got something in between, but it's so much quicker to just roll the dice.
Yeah.
So yeah, making it harder to see something, says Andy Stocker. Yeah. So I think ultimately, as long as the game plays quickly, you can sell it however you want. But I like how the game plays at the moment.
As someone who's played a lot of bolt action, you spent a lot of the early game. If you've got a nice board that looks at all like Western Europe, then there's hedges and trees and walls everywhere. You were never shooting at someone not through cover.
Yeah.
Almost never. And what that means is you're always hitting on 6s.
Yeah.
Or maybe 7.
I don't use hedges. I haven't got any hedges or anything. So my board today was, I had some roads and I had buildings, but if I'd had hedges, I probably would have just said they don't provide cover for the reason that you said. But then you can argue that they should, because
they provide concealment, which makes people difficult to hit. I mean, to be honest,
you can house rule it though, right? You could just say if you're behind a hedge, -1 to hit. That's the only thing that I think that surprised me, that there wasn't a -1 to hit for some things like that. But
yeah, but they've moved the modifiers into the cover save and so forth. But I think it was mostly to address that when you first couple of turns of bolt action. First 3 turns, you're mostly shooting on 6s. Now you're not.
Yeah. The one I've seen crop up in conversation a lot recently was the halving the number of shots on when you got a vehicle mounted weapon, so like an MMG or
Brilliant.
And with that, like I can see both sides of it. Like, the reason they ended up with what they chose was through playtesting. If they didn't halve the number of shots, the vehicles were just too effective, right? Or they'd have to increase the points for them. And I think halving the number of shots, the way they explained it, like, it's not as stable, it's harder to shoot from there or whatever. And some people have argued that it should have just been a modifier, but it seems like they've moved away from modifiers for the purposes of making the game play.
The problem wasn't a vehicle firing its machine gun. The problem was people buying cheap platforms that could put 3 or 4 machine guns on.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Now, Flames of War, interestingly, and partly they need to not appear to pinch somebody else's stuff, so they needed to look for a different solution. What Flames of War does is it gives you 3 dice for having a vehicle machine gun and an extra dice for every additional machine gun. So having 1 machine gun gives you more, but not significantly more. Because actually,
linearly.
Yeah. So that it's slightly better, but only very fractionally.
Yeah.
Flames of War does have a hit system with accuracy penalties and range penalties and so forth. And generally, what happens with vehicle machine guns, machine guns in general, is infantry are pretty indestructible unless you catch them in the open, in which point you just murder them.
Right. Yeah.
It's very, very real in that respect. If the guys are, got their heads down in some cover, you'll never get rid of them.
Yeah. I mean, I found that today, the amount of shots that would hit and then damage, but then get saved by cover, or hit and just not damage. Like, I had indestructible infantry, but they were getting pinned quite a lot. So
yeah,
but that's just the way the dice roll. So.
Yeah. And removing the firing penalty for having multiple pins makes HE. So one of the, again, so you probably never saw this, but we talked to some of the hardcore proper cheese list competitive gamers from, they weren't called Spearmint Rhino, they were called something Rhino. they run the UK Games Expo tournament.
Right.
They were hardcore, like multi-launchers and stuff. And they'd worked out a long time ago, the competitive players, you don't want to fire anti-tank at tanks. If you put 6 pins on the tank, it's useless.
Right.
Because it's -6 to hit. He's probably going to be out of action for 2 turns rallying.
Yeah.
So you fire howitzers. at tanks.
Yeah. I just stack them with pins, but then it's not.
But you have guns that can stick like 3d6 pins. It's why flamethrowers are crazy.
Yeah,
like you shoot flamethrower at a unit and it gets millions of pins, in addition to all the damage, and then maybe runs away.
But then it's not. It's only one turn to dump all your pins, right? Because a rally.
Yeah, so they've changed. That's one of the things they've changed a lot, and it's only ever -1. If you've got pin markers, you're -1 to hit. If I've got 4 pin markers, 6 pin markers, it's all the same.
Yeah. It's just the morale that it changes.
It affects the morale.
Yeah.
Yes, it doesn't affect your shooting.
I do like that because I have with Antares as well, where if I've got 3 or 4 pins on the unit, I hate taking rally orders because in Antares you don't dump all your pins, you dump like a certain amount.
Like with bolt action, you dump to D6, I think, +1.
Yeah. Right, and you know you're going to roll a 1 if that happens.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So nobody wants to take a rally order, and so as a result, you always think, well, I'm going to shoot because there's just a chance that I'll succeed, and you don't. You go down and you don't lose any pins. And I much prefer the system now. I think it's quite satisfying when you do manage to dump all your pins because you have to waste a turn doing it. You've only got 6 turns in the game.
Yes. And a lot of the missions require you to move pretty much 4 turns out of 6.
Yeah.
If I'm going to get to your half of the table and there's a 2-foot gap between us, that's 4 turns of movement.
Yeah. And
the objective's in your half and it's a 6-turn game.
Yeah.
I can't afford to give up a turn. It's the thing that I hated about the British artillery.
Oh, so effective.
Because it's miss a go for the Germans. For whoever they're playing against, because you dump a whole bunch of pins down. You don't. It's not that it kills men. I didn't mind that.
It's
that it sticks D6 pins on several units or whatever, and it's basically miss a go.
Yeah,
and in a game where most of the missions are, you have to move for at least 4 turns.
Yeah. See, I quite often just ignore the 6-turn limit because if the game is
integral to the game.
Say again?
I think it's an integral part of the game. I think it's a really important part of the game.
I think it is
beautiful about it. You've got to move. But
equally, if I feel the game is undecided at the end of turn 6, my opponent still wants to keep playing, we'll always. Me and Josh played a game of Antares that went on 14 turns.
Right.
That was mainly because he'd lost on turn 2, but he didn't know it until turn 14. So
right. He may disagree. I get the feeling.
I mean, it'd be very difficult for him to disagree. I think he was wiped out to a man.
Right.
But I mean, if you're having a good time, why stop the game at turn 6? But it depends on the size of the game. If you're playing like a 1250 point game, like 6 turns is going to take you a long time to get through. If you're playing a 500 point game, I feel like you could go to 10 turns easy. But you're right, though. Like for an objective-based game, 6 turns is about the right amount.
And it's still got, I haven't actually checked, I assume it's still got variable, like you roll a dice to see if there's an extra turn.
I was just about to ask that, because I know...
I hope they've kept it, because, again, I really like that. The not having the certainty.
Not knowing,
Especially for when you get into those last few moves. Say, well, I can just pull back here and I've won the game. Say, well, you don't know that for sure, actually.
Yeah. I think that might be a thing. I mean, hell, even if it's not, you should definitely house rule that.
Yeah, it's an interesting mechanic. But yeah, I would say one of the things I don't like from an immersion point of view, objectives in historical games are a bit weird. It's like, what am I achieving by being at this location for a period of time? What is it that I'm trying to do that has any consequence? Now, in science fiction, it's fine. There's etheric rays from the cosmos that we have to harvest here, or whatever the fuck you want. There's some widget to interact with the greater universe.
Yeah,
you need to be there for. So I'm pretty familiar with what's going on in World War II, and there's not much of that going on, really. No. Certainly not something that starts in the other guy's lines. Yeah. What do I get by doing that? But what I really like about objectives as a game is it gets rid of the point when I was younger and I played Warhammer Fantasy and 40K and so forth. People would just crawl onto the table and then just shoot at maximum range and never wanted to engage.
Yeah.
Once you put objectives on, means I have got to move.
Oh yeah, and it
got to attack.
And it also means that it just adds variety. Like if you've got, especially I like it when you've got like a defender whose job is just to stay in place, and that means as the attacker you're gonna bring on more things like indirect fire weapons because you know your enemy has to stay in that position. Which you wouldn't do in a more mobile game. The idea that you both have to rush for an objective in the middle means rather than shooting, you might have to sacrifice a turn running towards the objective. I hate spending a turn where I haven't shot at someone, but you have to do it to get to the objective.
Yeah. And those times where you have to make the double move and so forth. And again, it just plays differently.
It does make for a quicker game as well. I think
that bolt action does well, whereas 40k is grossly overcomplicated its mission rules with bean counting every turn for standing here with a certain type of unit for a certain turn scores me 10 points. And I'm like, you're overcomplicating something. The simple version is fine.
Yeah.
The simple version is absolutely fine. You've forgotten what this is for. This is to promote conflict and encourage movement. It's not how, it already does that. You don't need to make it more complicated than
I think I between the two though. Like if I've played a game that has that level of complexity, I yearn for the simplicity. But if I'm playing a simple game, I yearn for the complexity. Right. And I don't think we're ever happy as wargamers because you'll always get to a point where it's like, that was fun, but it felt too simple. And then when you're in the middle of
last time you genuinely thought that the game was too simple for me.
I get it quite a lot. I think it might be where I've played the same system quite a lot, and so I'd see a lot of the same things happen. It's like with list building. Antares, I had this for quite a while. I was playing so much Antares that we didn't quite get cookie cutter lists, but we ended up with you'd always take pretty much the same units every time. And I wanted to start experimenting with stuff that was like scouts that had infiltrator rules and stuff like that, or going with less optimal units because I wanted a more narrative focus. And I think that sometimes adding a bit of complexity adds that variety without necessarily having to change up the rules. So
I don't think you need complexity for that. That's one of the things that Warhammer does right by being evil.
Right.
What Warhammer does is it keeps changing the points values of things.
Yeah.
And when they change the points values of something that was good and make it more expensive, or something that was bad and makes it really cheap, is it mixes all of that up.
It does. But then
I think if you want a healthy tournament scene, I think you need to keep messing with the points.
Yeah.
Not to find balance, to create deliberate imbalance.
Right, but for narrative games, which is obviously the antithesis of tournament games.
Absolutely.
I played with the guy that I play most of my Antares games with. We were messing about with this idea that you could give. It was actually something we got from Mythic Americas. In Mythic Americas, it's the same rough rule set, and you get given I think 6 cards each at the beginning of the game that have different effects that you can play situationally. And I think they're standard cards, so you know what your opponent has, but you don't know when they might use them. And I just love the idea that, as you think you're about to claim the objective, your opponent plays something that says, that goes back in the bag, and when we get to draw again, or just something that the mechanic might be really simple, but the narrative reason for the mechanic adds that extra bit of flavor.
Yeah. I was a little bit disappointed that Bolt Action 3 didn't add cards. So we're going to talk about 2 games that I think with cards. So one is Achtung Panzer, Warlords Achtung Panzer. It is quite a complex game for me, but I love what the cards bring to it.
Right. And
some of them are really broken.
Right.
In terms of how powerful they are.
We like those.
But they add all kinds of uncertainty to what's going on. I like that. And probably an overlooked game by a lot of people is Flames of War's Clash of Steel.
Right.
Flames of War's Clash of Steel is its kind of World War II continuation. So after Germany gets rearmed, and it's the West versus the Soviets with the Germans.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's that Patton gets what he wants. We have that war. So
Yeah.
what you get is the kind of all the paper panzers, for example,
Yeah.
which people love. So you can have a mouse on the table. In fact,
Nice.
and it's for the bigger tanks.
Yeah.
And now we're about to release their third box. So it's got tanks going up into the 60s.
Right.
Now, some that were never made, but also many of the ones that were.
Yeah.
So like the M60, the T62, those kind of things. Anyway, so on the face of it, it looks like this is just Flames of War, but with no infantry and with a lot of science fiction tanks. But because it's just a game, not history, they've been able to step away from that. And people play Flames of War because they want a more historical game. Some people would say Flames of War is still not very historical. I disagree, but it's pretty historical as games go. This isn't. And so that does have objectives like on the table as big discs. But it has player card, a hand of player cards, which would be like, re-roll my misses and things like that. The kind of cards we were just talking about.
Yeah.
But the objectives have also got cards on them. So you drive up to an objective, and when you try to claim the objective, you turn the card over and it says this objective doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Or this objective is not claimable until a later turn. Or things like that. And I really like what cards can bring to a tabletop war game without lots of complexity, because the rule is right there.
Have you ever played A Song of Ice and Fire? Because they've got.
No, I bought it and I've had it painted.
Right.
I got somebody else to paint the Starks for me, so I've got an army. It looked good, but it was probably about 5 years ago. And it looked like it was a dead game, but I think it's kind of being redone now.
I was going to say, I don't think so. If you do come down to a tournament, you should bring them with you, because there's a really active Song of Ice and Fire community down here.
It's had a second edition, hasn't it? Or it's having one.
I don't know. So I've only played the game once.
Buying it for years. I picked it up like cheap.
What I liked about that is exactly what we were just talking about, the idea of like having the cards with abilities. But I think with that, it's actually, you don't just get cards that you're stuck with for the whole game. You can cycle through them every turn, so you can pick. And I think that's you end up with like kind of a mix of a deck builder game in a war game, and it means that if you end up with 5 crap cards in your hand at the beginning of the game, then you at least know that next turn I might have better cards. And I love that sense of uncertainty that, and I think that's what I crave. I think by adding these extra rules in is the sense of uncertainty that your opponent might have a trick up their sleeve. And that's what I like about stratagems in 40K as well, is the idea that your opponent has a trick up their sleeve that you don't know about, or that I've got a trick up my sleeve that my opponent doesn't.
And I like that. I just think it's better achieved by having cards.
Yeah, I mean, everyone likes the tactile feeling.
Well, they're often really situational. So you just forget about them,
right? Yeah,
because they're so, if one of your vehicles wants to shoot through smoke, then for this you can get +1 to hit, and you're like, I'm never going to remember that.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah, I think the nice thing about the cards is they are right there on the table, and when if it's a expend it, put it in the discard pile when you're done. There is something nice about that. Oh, but then there's always the risk, maybe not with that kind of mechanic, but Fallout Wasteland Warfare, the first edition of that, there's thousands of cards. And because they did everything was cards, unit cards, weapon cards, quest cards, perk cards, and leader cards, just crazy amounts. So that's good for me because the app became essential, because how do you manage 1,000 physical cards? You can't shuffle them, so use the app.
Right. But, I see. So you use the app because you didn't need to have the physical cards because there was so many.
Yeah, exactly. But they're dispensing with the cards in second edition. They've already said that
because they got 1,000 and they realized it was too many.
Yeah, but because it presents logistical issues with producing the cards. They used to include the cards in the pack with the miniatures, and then they'd have the cards were being shipped from one place and the miniatures being shipped from somewhere else. The miniatures were ready to go, but the cards were still waiting to arrive. So they rather than like it caused so many headaches for them, they started just doing the cards as separate packs. So then you now got you've still got boxes of miniatures out in the wild that come with the cards in them from the early editions, but then the later editions they don't have cards in, and it's confusing for a lot of people. And then you've got to go and buy the physical card packs, and then because they still had issues with production of the physical cards, they moved to digital only or print at home. And so again, like, it's great for the app, not great for the user experience. And they just decided, you know what, for second edition, no more cards. Like, it was a love affair with cards all along, but eventually they realized it just wasn't going to work. You got a table of weapons instead of having 1,000 different cards for your weapons.
Right.
And I think that, you know, it works in every other game. So
yeah, Andy, absolutely. Since Barge 3 didn't have cards, I guess it would be too big a divergence away and might upset people in terms of, but I'd like to see them offer it. You don't have to use it, but you know,
I don't think it's
come out with the card pack saying, here's the event deck for Northwest Europe.
Yeah.
Use it if you want
off the cards, though, so to speak. I wouldn't say it's off the cards, though, so to speak. I like, if you think they haven't done all the army books yet, right? So there's always, and this isn't insider knowledge. This is pure speculation.
Yeah. They definitely could do it.
I don't see it as being something that they would rule out, because when you get to, like, you know, after they've done all the armies of books, they're going to need to keep producing content for their flagship game or do another edition, which they won't want to do, right? So
we've got another 30 supplement books to do, yeah?
Don't tell me that. I don't want to do another 30 plus supplement books.
Yeah, but they're only going to do 4 a year. You'll be fine.
Yeah, that's true. I'll be all right. That'll see me out.
People keep wanting the app because they're never going to want to own all these books.
Yeah. I don't know. I like having physical books on my shelf as well, though.
So we've overrun a little bit, which is fine. We're having a good chat. So so the other games in the stable then. So, for example, in this Combined Arms campaign that Wooly and I do, we're going to be playing some Victory at Seas. Is Victory at Seas at all on the radar for the Warlord app?
It's not in practical terms. I mean, we've said all along that we want to put all the games into the app. Obviously, with Bolt Action, we figured we were going to be working on Bolt Action until all the army books were done, but then Conflicts come along, and that's the next game on the radar. After that, I don't know what's next. We talked a little bit about doing maybe Achtung Panzer. I'd like to do Hail Caesar, Epic Hail Caesar, but only because I've got a bunch of those models. But we need to talk to Warlord really on.
Do they even have a point system in Hail Caesar?
It's not necessarily for the point system. It's for having all the reference, right? So they do, I think, have points, but obviously it can be played narratively, and you could ignore the points. I need to. It's like with Black Powder. I think, you know, you don't use points for that, right? You're recreating specific battles.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't even know if there's an unofficial point system for Black Powder.
So you're saying there is, or you're wondering?
I don't know. I don't even know if there's an unofficial one. Because we've actually, I don't know if Duncan FX is still here, but about once a month I meet with Callum Brush and Quill at St Albans, and we've been playing with the World War I miniatures that Duncan FX painted for me a couple of years back, and we're using an adapted version of Black Powder for it to fight 1914 World War One. It's been a lot of fun. We're playing it quite regular.
Nice.
Getting close to a point where I might be able to sort of share the. So what happened is, Friends of General Haig had a set that they'd used for a demo game, and he passed that over to me, and I had a bit of a look at it. But that was like a one-off game that they'd put something together, so it was kind of part of it. And they hadn't played 10 games of it to think we need to make some changes. Whereas we played with that for a bit and started to iterate from it and so forth. Okay. I got quite an interesting game coming together now.
Nice.
Yeah.
I imagine with the scenery would be challenging for that, like the trenches. I've never seen trenches.
Well, you play 1914.
Ah, okay. So no trench warfare, just
in 1914. There's no trenches. No.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that you can't use the same system, but you need a very different battlefield.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Nice.
So one of the most the rule that we've created most recently, for anyone that knows Black Powder out there, is we've added an ADC rule. So one of the problems with the First World War compared with black powder is you have artillery that has enormous ranges and can fire indirect. Right? You're not just firing cannons. I mean, you are firing cannons, but these cannons can fire over the tops of hills and trees and things. They don't have to see. But you don't have the command and control really to do that. Right. So how do you stop the player from just freely shooting at whatever the heck he wants from anywhere? So what we did was we took the command value of the general, and you can reduce the general's command value to use ADCs. So, and an ADC, aide de camp. So you send a junior officer to go and instruct the artillery to fire at a thing. But for each of these tokens that you're doing this with, and you can order independent units this way, each time you're doing it, you're reducing the chance that they succeed because you're reducing the command number. So if the only thing my general does is say, get them howitzers firing on that farm, there's a good chance that that'll work. But if he says, do that, tell the lancers to pull out over there, and it's you suddenly rolling on sixes for all of these things on 2d6.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense though, right? Because if your ADCs are off doing something else, he's got less ability to communicate with everyone else on the field.
Yeah, there's a limit to what you can do. Literally, it's like how many different things can one man coordinate with the team around him? So, well, the more you try and do, the less likely they are to work.
Yeah.
It also let us deal with the other problem, which is that in black powder, you're supposed to have brigades, which are fairly homogenous units with a commander, and you would attach infantry and you'd attach cavalry and artillery to it.
Yeah.
In the First World War, you are not going to have a battery of howitzers attached to a battalion of infantry. That's just not going to happen. So if you've got some cavalry on the table, or you've got some Jaegers, or some Indian infantry or something else that's not part of your core formation, they're not going to have their own command.
Yeah.
Because they've been detached from a much larger formation. So your army commander is having to deal with them.
Yeah, okay, sure.
So this is again from that little pile of ADCs that you've got. It's like, well, if I want these lancers to do anything, I've got to command them.
That makes sense.
It's just I
haven't played Black Powder yet, but I feel like I should talk to you when I do, because I like the sound of that rule. I like the fact that it's forcing you to make decisions.
Oh, Black Powder is a game of maneuver, not a game of fighting.
Yeah. Okay.
So when you try and move your units, you roll some dice, and they might make 1, 2, or 3 moves, or none.
Oh, okay.
They'll make 0 to 3 moves. Where a move might be 12 inches.
Right. Okay. So they can get around pretty quick.
Look, because we're playing 12 mil, we're using centimeters.
Yeah.
But it's still like, so the number of times I've had units being enfiladed that I can't get them to move. It's like I'm getting murdered from a machine gun firing straight down this unit, but I can't get them to move.
Terrible.
Does
Black Powder work the same way?
Yeah, that is Black Powder.
But it's the same. So it's just the same rules, just scaled down. Like epic Black Powder, like the epic.
Oh, right. Epic Black Powder is just Black Powder.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Scale of miniatures. They've actually the base frontage. The base frontage is the same.
Oh, okay.
The frontage on those epic bases is 40 mil.
Right. Okay.
Which is the same frontage as 2 guys. So
yeah. Okay.
Whereas in epic you'd have 2 bases back to back and 3 wide or whatever. That would be, each one of those would be a 40 by 40 base of guys.
Gotcha.
Which is why the units still have really big footprints.
Yeah.
Which is one of the things we'd adapted to the First World War. The unit companies are a bit more flexible. That my basic unit is a company, not a battalion. And what that means is we need to not make it as long, because that does cause you a lot of problems. Which means doing a rank and flank game. Anyway,
but less so in World War One.
Yeah, but still a problem. It's still you're still linear. That's one of the things that they learned early in the First World War was they knew that people were going to get murdered if they stood in close order, so they went in skirmish order. But skirmish order is still a line. So so you could still get enfilading. You were still all in a line, just spaced out. You might be slightly jagged, but if a machine gun fires down that angle, you're still one behind the other. Yeah. Which is why it changed into tactics we're more familiar with today. Anyway, I think we should call it there, Jamie. What did you get any hobbying done? I didn't even try because I knew I was going to be looking at the website.
I mean, I got a total of 3 models partly assembled and 1 model fully assembled because it was literally just glue them onto the base. So that's still progress.
That is every bit of progress is progress.
I'm a bit crap at multitasking, unfortunately. I did cut plenty of bases off of the sprues, so that's still saving me time for later.
Yes. Do you like the lipped base? Do you regard it as a premium product?
I actually do like it. I didn't like it when I first got them, but
oh really?
I didn't like I was used to the Citadel bases, right, the hollow bottom. And if you've got like a rough, I have a couple of gaming tables that I've got lots of like sand with stones and stuff in them. These don't sit very well on them, but I actually do kind of like them for the, I don't know, I just like the lip for being able to decorate it and then have a very clear defined edge.
Exactly. I think they're beautiful.
Yeah.
And when you finish putting your basing material on, you still get to rim your base. And rimming is a fine hobby.
It is a fine hobby.
Thanks everyone for watching. Bye-bye now. Bye.
Bye.